Good afternoon. I'm Charles Shapiro, President of the World Affairs Council. Today's program on building the Black middle class is with John Hope Bryant. John is the founder and CEO of Operation Hope, which he founded in 1992 following the Rodney King riots in LA. Operation Hope is a nonprofit working to disrupt poverty and empower inclusion for low and moderate income youth and adults. John's a regular contributor to CNBC Squawk Box. He spoke to the council last on June 19th, 2020, when we talked about the death of George Floyd. Since that time, I'm proud that John has joined the board of directors of the World Affairs Council. So that has been great for us. The genesis of this program is that in February, I spoke with Dr. Maurice Hobson from Georgia State about the Black middle class. That conversation was so interesting that we decided to continue the conversation this time with my dear friend, John Hope Bryant. If you're in the audience, please send your questions not on chat, but using the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So John, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here.
My pleasure to be with you. You're one of my favorite people, and truth be known, you didn't ask me to join the Board of Governors. You pretty much told me. And I always do what Ambassador Shapiro said. So,
actually, that's pretty good. I appreciate that.
We're lucky to have your leadership. Atlanta's lucky to have you in the city. The world's lucky to have your public service. We all thank you for a mostly thankless job.
Well, that's great.
You and Fernanda.
And Fernanda. Let me start. How do you define the Black middle class? Is it income? Is it education? Is it homeownership? Who's in the Black middle class and who's not?
Yeah, it's aspiration. It's hope. I asked my nephew who's living with us now. He came from Baltimore. What's the difference between now here in Baltimore? He said nothing and everything. You've got blacks here as a majority. You have blacks there as a majority. You have young blacks here. You have young blacks there. You've got folks hustling here. You got folks hustling there. But he said the big difference is here you have hope. Mm-hmm. Here you have hope, and you have doors open that you can walk through that won't get you shot. You have the legitimate ability to move from the streets to the business suites. You don't have that in Baltimore. And so it is, we're riding off the historic past of what I call the second Reconstruction. Atlanta has been involved in all three Reconstructions after the Civil War. Atlanta and Savannah and Georgia in general were key to that first Reconstruction with 40 acres and a mule, which happened 2 hours from here in Savannah, Georgia. That deal was cut in Savannah with 20 black ministers who wanted land they wanted to do for themselves. And that moved us from the plantation fields to our own farms. And then you had the civil rights movement that moved us from the farms to the factories and the birth of the Black middle class. And then you had the educational institutions here in Atlanta, Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, Spelman, and others, Georgia State, et cetera, which has really created an army of educated African-Americans who then were employed by progressive companies like some Coca-Cola, Delta, and others, and we added to their bottom line. And that's where the burgeoning middle class really was born in the middle of the 20th century, late 1960s to really 1990s. And then you had a drop-off in higher education and that whole culture of education as a central path to success. You had a bunch of folks who wanted to do, quote, their own thing, call it hip hop music, call it entertainment, call it professional, whatever you want to call it. And we've now realized you cannot have 48 million black people trying to be 5,000 rappers, 5,000 professional athletes. I mean, those numbers don't work. But you have a lot of, to its credit, Atlanta has become an entertainment mecca, a creative mecca, and it is employing a lot of people, but you can't employ the whole city. Okay, what's driving the economy is a third real estate and finance, a third healthcare, and a third professional services. And what's driving jobs in America is 88% private sector, and all legitimate wealth is through small business and entrepreneurship. So that then leads to the third reconstruction, which is, I think, was what we're in right now. I wrote a piece for the Milk and Review 2 weeks ago that your folks can download, called The Third Reconstruction. And I think that's social justice through an economic lens. And I think what you're seeing now is this uncomfortable transition from folks who not just cash checks, but folks who write them. Mm-hmm. And so it depends what lens you're looking at. If you're looking at I'm a cashing check kind of a person, then you may see a declining level of middle class aspiration. If you're looking at a writing check person, then you see, I think, the mecca really in the country here in Atlanta as far as opportunity is concerned. But by the way, the writing check person will enhance the cashing check community. And so we've dipped, like everything, ebbs and flows. We've dipped down, and I think you're going to see a resurgence back up, because these folks who are now writing checks also have, in my view, a consciousness also. These young people who are starting businesses and older people are like, I got to do well and do good too. I have a responsibility to the public. I mean, look, my business, the Promise Homes Company here in Atlanta, largest of its kind in the country. I have 700 homes here in Atlanta. 50, I don't get the number exactly right. I know it's over 50%. Let's say 58%, I believe it is, of all my vendors, plumbers, electricians, lighting, roofing, these are middle-class jobs, are minority, Black and female. Would that have happened if I wasn't the owner? Probably not. In fact, when I bought it, it was less than 10%. So it's a long answer to your question, but it's both it's almost a tale of two cities. It depends, but it just depends which lens you're looking at it.
So is the Black middle class growing in Atlanta and nationwide?
The Black middle class is in a transition period, and actually in the short term it's declining. Because
of COVID?
No, because 41% of Americans have a high school education. And that number is growing, right? And there's too many Black people who are not obsessing with higher education. If you're not in higher education and you're not in technology, you're actually, to quote Dr. King, you're living in a horse and buggy world in an environment with jet-like speed. So you have, if you're not in technology, you're not in engineering, you're not in AI, you're not in one of these progressive fields, you don't have skills, and you need beyond high school to do that, then you're going to be limited in your ability to earn an income, right? The exception of this are probably the professions that I mentioned: plumbing, electrical, landscaping, roofing, whatever. But there's been a decline in folks going after those positions.
Right.
So I think we're in a reset moment, because this is a generalization, but a lot of young people, a lot of them, wanted to go into the creative spaces, and it's just not enough jobs for 48 million Black people in America to do all that stuff. It's not, Black music is only a $54 billion, music is a $54 billion part of the $20 trillion economy in the US. That includes Black music, right? And of that, 17 billion of that number is performing. The rest of it is engineers, technology again, engineers and business management, and it's the professions, and it's lawyers. And so it keeps coming back to what's driving the economy. I think folks now are getting the memo that, hey, I need some hard skills. I need to make smart sexy again. And so I think this conversation that we were having in 2024, or when we have it in 24, you'll begin to see, I think, this versus this. And so in the short term, because if you're talking to somebody who has a high school education, trying to earn a middle class living, it's really tough. But if you've got a degree from Spelman or Clark Atlanta or wherever, there's never been a better time to be Black in America or in Atlanta right now. But people, I mean, I'm joking, but you educated and intelligent and thoughtful and focused and conscious, and you're standing on a street corner, somebody will drive by and grab you to hire you if you have the skills they need, because everybody's looking for diversity and inclusion if they're smart right now. But
I got to jump in here with an advertisement for Georgia State, which graduates more Black undergrads than any university in the United States for the last, I think it's 7 years now.
And there's an Andrew Young School of Public Policy there also, I believe.
Absolutely. You got it right. You got it right. Talk to me for a second. I know you can talk for a long time about this, but the elevator version, how is Operation Hope helping make that connection between the people who receive the check and the people who are writing the checks, moving people into the Black middle class?
So I didn't give you, I don't feel, before I answer it, I don't feel like I gave you a good answer to the last question. Let me shoot straighter. I think that in the short term, the middle class is declining because of a lot of factors. But the short version is we're not skilled. We don't have the skill base that our mothers and fathers had to go get the structured job in the economy that allow us to sustain and build on what mom and dad created. So there's been several studies that showed that Blacks have the greatest sense of any other race to go from middle class to poverty than anybody else. And so when you're born Black, you're born on probation in America. You got to be twice as smart, twice as intelligent, twice as well dressed, get up twice as early, stay up twice as late, and be twice as smart. And so we took a path after the civil rights movement of, what Ambassador Andrew Young would call freedom high. We wanted to do our own thing. Okay, that experiment hasn't worked very well. And everybody can't be Jay-Z or LeBron, right? So now we've got to go back and get the basics right. And what I'm seeing is a pivoting, is what I was saying, of this generation saying, I got the memo. I've got to go get that education. I got to get those skill sets. I got to reset myself. Even if I want to be in music, I have to have an engineering expertise. Okay, so now so check that box. The question was, what is Operation Hope doing? 1 million Black Business Initiative. We launched a $130 million 10-year partnership with Shopify, second largest e-commerce company in America, to create 1 million new Black businesses between now and 2030. And we're dead serious about it. And we're headquartered here in Atlanta. This movement will start here in Atlanta. Companies like Aprio have signed up to the Time Bank, which is a large accounting firm here in Atlanta. It's not yet announced, but Clark Atlanta University is the first HBCU who has signed up to help create Black businesses here in Atlanta. We're going to announce it formally, but they've committed to 1,000 to create 1,000 Black businesses with us, and we'll get their professionals to volunteer with us. But just imagine if, I don't know, 2% of Atlanta's businesses and Atlanta institutions committed to be part of this. I mean, you could probably create 25,000 Black businesses just in Atlanta over 10 years. So this is the obsession, because that's where jobs come from, and that's where wealth comes from.
I love it. That's great. Okay, so now, I saw online that you are promoting Greenwood Bank. Why is that important?
Black people need a public win in business. And that quote's not mine. It's my friend, Killer Mike, who is one of the principals of Greenwood Bank. In full disclosure, my mentor, Ambassador Andrew Young, is a principal. His son, Bo Young, put him in the deal, basically, because Bo Young is a principal. There's a lot of smart young folks who are younger folks, Paul Judge and others, who are doing that. I believe in them. I believe they have integrity. You cannot grow an economy without access to capital. You cannot grow in a community without access to banks. They're trying to level the playing field, and Ambassador, they're using technology. If you're not using technology in the center of whoever you are, whatever you're doing, you're not growing. If you're not technology centric, as a church, mosque, synagogue, Boys and Girls Club, nonprofit, for-profit, school, or trade organization, or small business, big business, you're not growing. They've got fintech in the midst of their initiative, and I just think that they have a chance of really doing it right now. I think that Black people need Black America needs a huge public business win that's not in entertainment or sports. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm obsessing with a number of things, which is Operation Hope is creating a national economic infrastructure for Black America. That's part of what MBB is about, 1 million Black businesses. That's what The third Reconstruction frames out. It's also Financial Literacy for All, which we're launching here with the big CEOs later this month. It's the Corporate Inclusion Project to get Black people on boards of directors that we'll be launching probably next month. Is our Minority Small Business Index that we quietly launched last week. First index for the pulse of Black business in the nation. It'll come out every 3 months. We're launching on Squawk Box on Monday formally. We have a 700 credit score index we're launching with SurveyMonkey and Experian and somebody else I can remember. But we're putting an infrastructure in place. Okay.
Right.
And then with my businesses, I'm showing that you can have renewable philanthropy. If I want to write a check to help our favorite charity here, maybe I can write a check for 50 grand a year, 100 grand as a small business owner. But I just told you I'm kicking $5 million a year plus in contracts to middle-class folks, businesses where I'm paying a living wage through contracting through the Promise Homes Company. We've got to make smart sexy again. We've got to get into engineering, math, the sciences, mainstream economics and business. And that's, I think, the new obsession. And I think Greenwood is leaning in that regard as one of the many tools for transformational change. You got this president, Dr. French at Clark Atlanta, who is getting degrees in Homeland Security. He's advancing degrees in basically intelligence community, like the CIA. I mean, not just like law enforcement. Like he's going to where the money is, and he's providing degree programs for people who look like me to be able to get some of those prized positions and contracts. That's where we need to be heading.
Okay, so yesterday Forbes put out a list. It says that Atlanta and Washington, D.C., but metro areas both, tied as the this is using 2018 data, as the best place economically for Black Americans to live, the highest per capita income. Is Atlanta the Black Mecca that we portray ourselves as being?
If you're educated, I hate to keep ringing the same bell. I've got 5 pillars of success in my book, Up From Nothing. As much education you can shove down your throat, understanding financial literacy, the math. This is who wins. Family structure and resiliency, self-esteem and confidence. Those 2 things are different. Role models and environment. So if you don't have in a good environment and crappy role models, if you hang around 9 broke people, you'll be the 10th. If you have 5 of those things, or even 3 of those things, you're going to kill it. Mm-hmm. That is present in Atlanta at the top of the pyramid of Blacks. So people who got education, who understand financial literacy, who have a measure of confidence and self-esteem, whether they have family structure or not, tend to hang around people who are also aspirational. So now your role models, your environment your ecosystem is about success. That hopeful thing my nephew mentioned, you're killing it. Yes, so for that group. Then you have another Atlanta that lacks those 3 or more of those things, and they are not feeling aspirational at all. Atlanta for them is a really painful place, and we have to solve for that. That's what 1MBB is trying to do, because you don't need a PA. If you're a drug dealer, I'm gonna just be real blunt here. If you're a drug dealer, and there's a whole bunch of them in the Southeast, in the nation, you're a drug dealer, you're immoral, you're unethical. It's a special place in hell for selling death to your own community. But one thing you're not is dumb. You understand import, export, finance, marketing, wholesale, retail, customer service, security, territory, logistics. These folks with the wrong business plan, the wrong role models, the wrong environment, but they have talent, Ambassador. If you're a gang leader, yes, you're a frustrated union organizer. And anybody whitewashing this and going, well, gee, that is really unfortunate in the Black community. Hold on, where do you think NASCAR came from? Mm-hmm. Moonshine running. Okay, so slow down. I mean, most of what we doing legitimately today started in a very sort of raggedy place in this country. And so we have got some work to do to spread opportunity for all of God's children. But I think the thing that Atlanta got right, Ambassador, is the color here is not red or blue. is not black or white, it's green. And that's what separated Atlanta from every place else in the Southeast that is stuck in 1950 economically. We decided to argue about who's going to get the money, who's going to get the contract, right? And that's why, thanks to Andrew Young, we're the only international city in the South. That's why, thanks to Maynard Jackson and Andrew Young and others, that we have this incredible, an economy is the 10th largest in the country, Ambassador, the 10th largest in the country. But hold on, people don't know this. It's the 31st largest economy in the world, right behind Norway, built by Black people and white people who decided to not argue about race and stupid stuff. So diversity and inclusion seems to win if you're educated, if you understand the math, if you can fight over what's right, you have family structure resiliency, you have a sense of self-esteem and confidence, you have good role models in an enabling environment.
How do we balance, as economies do better, housing prices go up, people live in night, and there's this movement in Atlanta and everywhere else to move back into the cities, people are moving in from the suburbs. But at the same time, you have, as housing prices go up, people are being pushed out of those houses. In Atlanta, certainly since the Olympics, probably before, you've had poor, mainly Black people being pushed into Clayton and DeKalb counties. How do you balance having an affordable place to live versus what is called gentrification? I mean, gentrification it carries all kinds of negative connotations with it. I mean,
there's no negative connotation of gentrification. That's BS. And this argument's all wrong. All gentrification means, Ambassador, literally is a movement to middle-class values. That's all it means. The dictionary definition of it, right? So the problem is, and let me just be real straight about this. We're not financially literate. Wasn't our fault. The Freedmen's Bank after the Civil War, he chartered to teach free slaves about money, was pimped, taken advantage of by the idiot president took over after Lincoln, and it was closed. Frederick Douglass tried to run it, put $10,000 of his own money into it because he wanted to save it so badly. He was also a businessman, by the way, and it failed on his watch. So we never got the memo on money and free enterprise and capitalism, economics, and opportunity. So I understand it, but we are smart enough now to understand that everything that happens in your day is about money, and we need to get this memo because that's how our Jewish friends came up, is understanding how this system worked and even why they're being discriminated against. So we're giving these properties away. If you are financially literate, there's a homestead provision, which means your taxes will not go up if you know what you're doing. There's a guy, I said, this was 8 years ago, before the West Side took off. There was a guy who walked into City Hall, Ambassador, in broad daylight and bought 60 properties for $15,000. It seems mathematically impossible, but it was a tax default sale. I'm not even gonna tell you how much money those properties are worth today. Tens of millions of dollars. We didn't pay the property taxes. Mama owned the house. We didn't want to live there. We wanted to rent someplace up in Buckhead. We're trying to impress people we don't know with money we don't have in a place that we don't own about stuff that don't matter. We should have owned right in the hood, D-A-HOOD, the hood, right? Which is centrally located real estate. And by the way, an inner city in France is called Paris.
right.
An inner city in the UK is called London, right? An inner city in Turkey is called Istanbul. Only in America were people so backwards in the 60s and 50s that they moved out of the inner city, centrally located real estate, to jobs because of Black people. Okay, that was their mistake. Our mistake was to move into the hood and not own it. So I tell people, buy the best house in the worst block, or worse, buy the worst house in the best block in the hood, right? Because if it's any place that's within 10 minutes of a job, it's gonna go nothing but up because people are tired of driving an hour and a half each way to go home or to get to work. We can steal between here, please, anybody watching this is Black, between here and the airport is the next gold mine. Between Midtown, where your office I think are, and the airport is a gold mine. You can still pick up properties for $80,000, $100,000. Buy it, rehab it, and hold it. Buy it, rehab it, and rent it. I own 700 of them. Average rent's $1,200 a month. They've gone up in value from when I bought it at 80 grand to 160 grand. And I'm no genius, Ambassador. My net worth doubled and I didn't do nothing. Real estate does nothing but go up. But this is a financial literacy lesson. We got to stop hating on white people who are smart enough, or Asians, or whoever they are, to buy in our neighborhoods. The Klan didn't run us out of there. We're giving it away. So I know some people are going to have a problem with what I said, but they can't argue with what I'm saying. It's the math of the matter. How did Dr. King family, Coretta Scott King, God bless her, put the King Center where it is? Charity? Handouts? No, her daddy owned the land. And the guy who was across the street who would discriminate against Dr. King, wouldn't let him play with him, A.D. Williams, the grandfather, and Dr. King Sr. had to remind them, you know, we own the land underneath your store.
Mm-hmm.
Probably should knock it off, right? Right? And they cleaned it up, right? So if there's a white kid riding a bicycle through your neighborhood with short pants on and flip-flops, that's not a tourist. They own some property there. And if somebody's opening a little shop there, don't be mad at them. They're doing what we should do. Why is somebody selling hair weave in our own community? Why is somebody coming from halfway around the world selling hair weave, which is a bulletproof business, right? In the Black community? Why is somebody, I mean, I can go down the list of things that we buy all the time. Why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we buying the homes? It costs just as much to rent, own, to pay the mortgage as to rent. You got to live somewhere. These are, so yes, all these dynamics, but let me be clear. No one's taking it from us. We are giving it away. And the story's not over. It's over on the West Side. But that's the announced on the front page of the news when the stadium went over there. That story hasn't even started in the Southeast, Southwest, and there's so many places of opportunity. It hasn't even started. But what are we doing? I'll tell you something else. The earned income tax credit. People say, oh, well, I don't have the money. Yes, you do. If you make less than $60,000 a year, which is most people in Atlanta, the government owes you a check. And this new stimulus bill that just out is nothing but ching, 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 ching. It's a cash register, right? If you have a church, a nonprofit, whatever, all you do is apply for an SBA loan. They'll give you $10,000 cash. You don't even have to get the loan, Ambassador. Just apply for it. You get 10 grand, you get to keep it. Put that on a down payment on the house. If you make $30,000 a year, you ask people, you have 3 children. You ever heard of EITC? What's that? Congratulations. Go to Operation Hope. We're going to help you modify your tax return. You're going to get $6,700 for the first year, and it's retroactive for 3 years. That's 19 grand. You're going to get $3,000 for each kid you got for the CARE Act for a tax credit. That's 9 grand. So we're up to, that's $30,000. 30,000. What can you do with 30 grand? Down payment on a house.
Right.
I'm not even saying I'm sorry for that riff. I'm not sorry about anything. I'm only sorry that I haven't said it louder, more forcefully, quicker. Social justice is now seen through an economic lens. We got to go from protesting in the streets to mastering the business suites.
I am starting to get questions in from the audience, and let me remind everybody else, please send your questions in to me using the Q&A function. Leroy Carson asks, John, are you working on reform projects for people getting out of jail?
Yeah, I want to. I think some of those brilliant entrepreneurs on the planet are in jail. Because they got arrested for selling an ounce of marijuana, which is ridiculous. They did it 3 times. They got a 20-year prison sentence. That's untapped GDP. They can't go get a job at corporate America because they got a criminal record and probably a crappy credit report. But they can create a job as a businessman or a businesswoman. So that I just don't have enough time in the day, really. But that when I get some time, I want to do an entrepreneurship charter school chain. I want to have a massive prison to payroll campaign where you are training up these folks to be self-employed and let them redeem themselves. I think and please, somebody watching this, if you like anything I'm saying, just steal the idea. Just rip it off and go do it. All right. We need everybody. We need a new coalition of the willing. It used to be a coalition during Dr. King's day, Ambassador, in the streets. Right? And that was black and white together, right? Now we need a coalition in the business suites. black and white together. No one can do this by themselves. Operation Hope is doing a lot, but we are still a couple hundred people. Please lean in. If you're inspired by this, if somebody's watching this and they want to say, like, I want to help, volunteer for our time bank. 2 hours. You're an accountant, you're a lawyer, you're a bookkeeper, you're a marketing person, you're an IT profession, you're whatever your skill is. Give a small business owner 2 hours of your time a month to help them have a special forces team to rise up, because 96% of all black businesses don't have an employee. 96% of all black businesses in America, this is the dream team. This is the group that's going to change everything, wealth creation, do not have an employee. No books and records, no infrastructure. They're good at selling. It's busyness, not business. So there's something everybody can do, including this person that asked this great question, mobilizing a prison to payroll strategy. I'll help you write the white paper.
Great. It's a good deal. Michael Mudler asks, if President Biden is successful in getting the infrastructure bill approved, there'll be loads of new construction jobs created. U.S. doesn't have enough construction workers, let alone for today, let alone for the future after this bill passes. These are good paying jobs. How should people be getting ready for that? Is the black community getting ready to take advantage of the jobs that have come from the infrastructure bill?
No, we're not ready. But good thing is we get ready real quick. We've been doing so much with so little for so long. We can almost do anything with nothing. I'll give you an example of getting ready real quick that's very topical right now. The reason that you have all this drama right now with this, what I call a voter suppression bill, because it's very simple. This is a payback bill. That's all it is payback for black folks routing a president and creating 2 Senate seats in Georgia. It's a payback bill. And the person who lost is going around the country whipping up stuff at the state level, versus when Hillary Clinton lost in 2016, folks who support her just said, okay, she lost, support the new president as best we can. They need to accept the loss. There was no fraud and move on. Okay, they didn't. Why they're so upset? Because black folks voted their tail off. Now, there's 2 times when black people vote: when we're proud and when we're pissed. Mm-hmm. We were super proud on the first term of Obama, and we're super pissed when a certain president started dog whistling in our name, and we said we're not having it. And we came from not voting at all to voting better than anybody else ever seen on the planet. And I think that you can see that same kind of pivot of passion into intellect and action when you see, I think, the economics calling their name. I mean, money is an incredible driver of behavior. So there's not enough construction workers right now, but I think you're going to start seeing a bunch of folks going, that ain't so bad.
Question from Marvin Daniels that ties right into that. Black entrepreneurs have had problems accessing loans from banks. And when you go to your website, your partners are overwhelmingly banks, right? So what are the recommendations that you have for banks?
For banks or for, I love you just threw me a curveball. I thought you were going to say a recommendation for him. Recommendation for banks?
For the banks. How can banks help?
Yeah. So thanks for an out of the box question. The banks need to see black and brown folks as a market opportunity, not charity. As a business opportunity, not a CRA, Community Reinvestment Act, compliance tool. That the color here is green. Mm-hmm. And there's a Citigroup report that was recently issued. It's embedded in my third reconstruction piece, which they can search for online, or we can put it. Somebody can put it in the chat here. The Citigroup report proved, Ambassador, that in the last 20 years alone, discrimination on business, mostly against blacks, cost the American economy $16 trillion in GDP. That's trillion with a T, mm-hmm. in the last 20 years alone. So it's a levy, a tax, racism, discrimination on all of us. Even the racist benefits when you bring blacks in the economy and you treat them fairly. So what I tell the banks is you want to get out of the no business and back into the yes business. And part of the reason you're saying no to people is the credit score is too low. there's a credit score in a delta of about 100 points between the aspirational white neighborhoods like Alpharetta and a lower income Black aspirational neighborhood. I don't want to pick on anybody, but there's so many examples of it, but I don't want to say a name. There's a 100-point difference. And that 100-point difference is everything, because the bank won't give a loan under 700 credit score for a small business loan because it's risky credit. No one tells you that. So 64%, 41% of all Blacks in America have a credit score below 620, which means you can't get a good mortgage. You can't get a good car loan. You end up with buying a Mercedes at 18% interest, which means it's not a Mercedes, it's Mercedes payments. Now you're pissed off at the bank when they foreclose on it, right? So we gotta get the credit score up. We need banks to sponsor Hope Inside locations with us, or sponsor the Urban League, or I don't care who you sponsor, but you got to get the credit score up in the communities that you are focused on. Truist is doing it, Synovus is doing it, Regions is doing it, Bank of America starting to do it. I know Wells Fargo is interested, but we need all the banks, all of them, to obsess on financial coaching, not just financial literacy, with an organization like ours to bridge between approvable and aspiration. You have an aspiration to be a homeowner, an aspiration to be a business owner, an aspiration to contribute to the economy, but you lack the skills. It's what you don't know that's killing you, but you think you know. You need somebody to help get that person's credit score up, which changes everything, to a point where the bank can say yes. And you'll see an explosion of GDP and loans that repay.
And that's what you're doing.
That's what we're doing. We have
I think that's tremendous.
Locations now, and I just announced on Twitter yesterday, we've got 41 locations coming online right now. On top of that, we've had a 25% growth in the first quarter of 2021. So we'll be at 200 locations soon, and we have 40 locations coming after that. I just stepped on your question. I'm sorry.
I know that's tremendous. We're coming to the end and getting questions in. Oh, here's a great one. So this just popped in. My homeowner's insurance is going through the roof. Not made a claim on my homeowners since 2014. Last year, house note increased $400 a month because the insurance increased. How can I find somebody to help find good insurance?
Call Operation Hope.
Affordable insurance.
Call 888-388-HOPE. Go to operationhope.org or download the Hope in Hand app on your Android or Apple device. The services are, listen now, free 99. Free 99. They're free, right? It's not a better deal in town. Go to one of my Hope Financial coaches, tell them I sent you. That there's something wrong with what you're looking at. We're not in Russia, we're not in China, this is a competitive environment here. We're not in Cuba. This is a competitive marketplace. If you have a decent credit score and you paid your mortgage on time, I think we can help you get you a better deal. In fact, I'm pretty sure we can. I'm almost saying we're certain we can. I just don't know your situation. The market competes for good customers. Particularly Black. There's never been a better time to be Black in history than right now.
Okay, and let me make sure everybody knows, we're going to send to everybody after this program, everybody who's registered, we're going to send them a link to your website. We're going to send them a copy of the recording of this program today. And we're going to send them a link to your article that you just published.
Third Reconstruction.
On the third Reconstruction. And so everybody will have that. We got loads of questions. I'm also going to send you all the questions. We'll turn them into a Word document, send it to you, the ones you've answered and the ones you haven't answered.
And they should also get the book Up From Nothing, which I just wrote, which unpacks my story in detail and explains all the failures I had and how and how to build this ladder and this 5 pillars of success I talked about earlier. All that's in this book Up From Nothing.
That's great. So I will actually put a link to the book as well, where you can buy the book. Okay, so here's the final question from Dial Delaney. Asks, what are your thoughts about Black in farming and owning grocery stores and distributing food as well? There's money in the last stimulus was passed to make up to Black farmers money that they had been denied previously. You're talking about that was a long time ago, farming. Is there a future for Blacks in farming?
I really wish we had another hour just on this. Maybe we'll do a part 2 at some point.
Yeah.
Look, boy, let me deal with the easy part of this first. The first time that you said that, love the question. First thought I had was, if I was somebody interested in food supplies and farming, I go to Whole Foods right now. Or as I say, it's in my neighborhood right now, and I cut a deal with Whole Foods to do an urban version of it. I'd cut a deal with Starbucks. I'd cut a deal with, I'd go to whoever, Starbucks is not for healthy food, but for whoever provides healthy nourishment in our society and they're gonna be looking for a zip code in the Black community that has a credit score that's aspirational, that's going up or stabilized at above 650, because people at a 600 or 580 credit score won't shop at Whole Foods. I know that sounds discriminatory. They just don't, they won't, it doesn't happen. The 500 credit score neighborhoods where George Floyd was murdered are attractions for bill paying companies, check cashers, payday loan lenders, rent to own stores, title lenders. I'm doing a whole thing on mapping credit scores in this country. But if you can get it above 650, and this data is all public, you can attract a partnership between you and a big company, maybe with no capital from you, maybe even advanced by them, to give them a new market opportunity. Now, let me go to the harder question. There is no way to replace Black farmers. The money in that bill is the least they can do. The largest reverse transfer of wealth in American history was slavery. We worked for free. I need everybody to understand this. I did not just make an emotional statement. I love math because it does not have an opinion, okay? The whole premise of this country, you come here and you work hard with these, you get the benefit of your labor. Ambassador, agreed?
Absolutely.
Black people came here as agricultural geniuses from Africa, not dumb people, brilliant people brought here because we could work any soil in any condition. They beat the self-esteem and confidence out of us so we wouldn't fight back. They made poor whites and poor Blacks be enemies to each other because we were getting along with each other. They told poor whites, you're white like us, not rich like us, not landowners like us, you're white like us. So then poor whites were then put in charge of poor Blacks. Now the stupid fight happens. We couldn't have any income, so we couldn't create an investment. We couldn't create capital because we were capital, bought, traded, insured, financed, Blacks. We were worth more than railroads and manufacturing combined in 1800s. And the richest city in the world was 1840, Natchez, Mississippi, in the world. The word millionaire came from New York City in 1850, tied to cotton. We know what business that came from. After cotton production went through the roof after slavery, through sharecropping, which were Black farms, right? We own millions of acres of land, Ambassador. It was cheated out of us because we were financially illiterate, because we worked on this guy's plantation. He set all the rules. You went into his shop. They didn't pay you in money. He paid you in well, you want some bread here today, Joseph? You want some seed? And for some reason, your debt never got paid off. It's a really interesting thing, right? So we were pimped. We were bamboozled. We were tricked. We were tricked out of millions of acres of land. What is America, Ambassador, if not land? Wealth. If you were a governor in the 1600s, 1700s, you were called a governor. What that really meant was you owned thousands of acres of land. That's what that really meant. And Virginia still has a dispute right now on where its state border is because it's a land dispute to this day. Virginia, right? So all this is about land. Black folks didn't get any. And the part we did get, we got cheated out of. So this $10 billion or whatever it is in the bill is the least they could do to try to make things right with Black farmers. And I think that if you get into farming in the right way, it's a really, really, really smart business. The number one subsidy, as you know, in this country for white people is the farm subsidy.
Absolutely. John, I promised you we'd be done at 12:45 and it's 12:46. So I'm going to apologize to you. I want to thank you so much. This has been great. I'm going to hold you to your promise to come back and do this again. And let's talk, let's go into this. I'm getting emails and questions that aren't questions, but are saying how great this is. And you're terrific. John, I want to thank you. John Hope Bryant, the founder of Operation Hope. Y'all need to go to their website, www.operationhope.org, and check out more about what they're doing. Let me tell you real quickly about some programs we have coming up tomorrow at noon. A program on the Iran nuclear deal under the Biden administration. Should we proceed? Should we not? Negotiations with Iran started again yesterday. We've got Ambassador Thomas Shannon, former Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, former Ambassador to Brazil, my friend and boss. Watch out tomorrow. It's going to be great. On April 14th, next Wednesday at noon, we have Dr. Mia Bloom from Georgia State talking about QAnon and the Proud Boys. That's her academic area, is extremism. So we're going to have her next Wednesday. I hope to see everybody then. 3 requests for the audience here. Join the World Affairs Council. We need you. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe sounds like you have to pay. It's not, it's free. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can send the video of today's program to your friends, and invite your friends to join one of our programs. I want to thank our staff, Valerie Lopez DeFrank, the producer, Laura Brower, assistant producer, and Fernanda Lucchini Ishihara, the council's executive director. And John, finally, I want to thank you. This has been great. Thank you for spending some time with us. Thank you for joining the World Affairs Council board. I am glad I twisted your arm and made you do it.
Well, hopefully today may have been a number of things, but I think certainly it wasn't boring. The 13th commandment just might be, thou shalt not bore people. So I think today we had constructive friction. I think hopefully people realize we're better together. And whether we're white, black, red, brown, or yellow, we all could benefit from some more green. And if we had that, a lot of tensions would lower in this country. And we would not be such an easy target for China, who's cheating at capitalism and who wants our place in the world. Everybody wants to be an American except Americans. We need to knock it off. We need to lock arms, and we need to get everybody in the field who can contribute to this economy and educate them and prepare them for battle, a positive battle of hope building. And that starts in the moral capital of America, Atlanta, Georgia.
That's great. That's the last word. John, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Everybody have a great afternoon. This has been terrific. You're terrific, John.
Love you, man. Let's go.
Love you. Great. Bye-bye.